What ended the relationship you thought would last forever? Ours was a story that seemed like it came from a movie. I saw her in the halls of my high school and fell head over heels for her. Our first day was December 6, 1997. We dated in high school. She said that from the first time she saw me, she knew I was going to ask her out. After high school, I ended moving away to a different country and we lost touch. Years passed and we both dated other people and each had marriages that ended in divorce. One day I was on Facebook and I decided to search for her, and lo and behold, I found her. I sent her a friend request, a message to make sure it is the right person. She answers within a day and we start talking again. It's like we had lost no time at all. Like we just saw each other the day before instead of 15 years passing by. We start talking every day, messaging each other while at work and video chatting at night. Friends are saying it is the happiest that they've ever seen either of us. After a few months of chatting, she comes to visit and says she wants to move to where I am. I asked her if she's sure, and she said she has never been more sure in her life. We both know that we want to spend the rest of our lives together with each other. She moves in and everything just clicks. All my friends fall for her because she's amazing. We start going on road trips and having adventures. There isn't a week that goes by that we aren't doing something adventurous. We talk about what type of house we want, how many kids we want, at least 2, and what their names will be. To celebrate our 1 year of living together, we plan a super fun road trip. While in Niagara Falls, I proposed to her and she says yes. There's no doubt that she would say yes. That was June 19th, 2016. We started planning our wedding. It is going to be December 6th, 2016, the 19th anniversary of our first date. Nothing big or fancy, just something fun with all of our friends to make it official. I come home from work early one day and she meets me at the door with a kiss and a hug, asking how my day was. We're making plans for the evening when she starts complaining that she isn't feeling good. She gets up to go to the bathroom and collapses in the hall. I rush over to her as she begins to have a seizure. I call 911 and it seems like forever for them to arrive. They work on her, but there's nothing that they can do. Met in high school, lost contact for 15 years, 3 weeks after getting engaged to the girl of my dreams, and now I have nothing. Oh, I definitely did not see that coming. I'm sorry, man. Story 2. Not as long as some of these, but the first time in my 25 years I've been swept off my feet. She was the girl of my dreams. Gorgeous, smart, kind, funny, charming. Literally everything I could want in a person. I thought I'd loved others before that, been engaged, but I never experienced feelings like that. I've been with girls that I could see myself being with forever, but when I was with her, the only thing I wanted was to grow old with her. I always thought that the whole the one thing was BS. Then I met her and I couldn't imagine someone more perfect for me. I genuinely believed for the first time in my life that there is someone on this earth that I was destined to be with. I remember the weekend before it went downhill, she intoxicatedly texted me saying that she thought I was the best person she knows. I was blown away that someone as amazing as her could see that much in me. Then my ex got something in her mind to make her mad. She told her I was a cheater, liar, among many other things, all untrue. In the end, she said she didn't believe it, but couldn't be sure. 8 months later, and here I am, intoxicated in Alaska and only thinking of her while she has her adventure in Europe. Oh, 2 heavy stories in a row. Story 3. She started getting cruel, both mentally and physically. I mostly kept to myself, didn't tell anyone about my cruel relationship until I told a close personal friend. I was told to leave her, but silly me didn't want to leave her because I really liked her, until one day she slapped me in a crowded area. Everyone saw and I was just devastated because it was really embarrassing. So when we got home, I told her I wanted to leave her. I was really calm about this, even after what she put me through a mere few hours ago. She starts screaming at me, calling me good for nothing, a wuss, that I should end myself, and her favorite line, "I'll never find someone better than me." I got really angry after she said that final line. I usually have a long fuse, but that day I blew up and kicked her out of my house. She was surprised because I'm not an angry person at all, and she has never seen that side of me ever. Now, unfortunately, we've been apart for 4 months now, and I feel better. I honestly wanted to work things out because I really liked her, but she turned insane. Better to have found out almost a year into the relationship rather than be married and living together. That would have been way worse, buddy. Story 4. My wife and unborn daughter passed away from sudden onset eclampsia. A fair portion of women will experience preeclampsia during pregnancy, and their doctors will monitor them to make sure it doesn't escalate. A small portion will actually become eclamptic, which is dangerous for both mom and baby. That doesn't mean their fate is guaranteed. My wife had a rare case, one that came so quickly there were no warning signs. On Thursday, her doctor appointment was perfectly normal. By Tuesday, she was eclamptic and passed away. Up until that point, she had a perfect pregnancy. No gestational diabetes, no rapid weight gain. Heck, she barely had morning sickness. In 2 days, it'll be 8 months. I'm sorry, man. Story 5. I wasn't in love and neither was she, but we were best friends. We were both in high school and we were really close. Like, talk every day, hang out for hours every week, and on the weekends, finish each other's sentences kind of close. I took her to homecoming once because she wanted to go and didn't have a date, even though I freaking hate that kind of thing. We'd been joined at the hip for at least a year and a half, and I told her that to break up with her new boyfriend because he was a user who would ignore her for days at a time. It was an online relationship, and those suck anyway, but even if they didn't, I don't think stop dating a user who has no plans on stopping the whole substance deal is a bad idea. She told me that I was disrespecting her and stopped talking to me for at least 2 years straight. Now she's with a real-life boyfriend who she lives with, but he's an emotionally cruel and a racist redneck. I unfriended her on Facebook a week or two ago because I was tired of witnessing the train wreck that is her life. Honestly, man, you dodged a bullet. Story 6. I didn't mind her spending time with a male friend as I had complete trust in her. We were engaged and had been together for 5 years. She never cheated on me, but wanted me to claim ownership of her by refusing to spend time with another man. What confused me even more was that I had never been reluctant to show my passion for her. We had loads of intimacy and had an absolutely awesome chemistry, and I even saved her life twice. Once in a car accident and once while she had a very bad kitchen accident. Over the years, I've probably thought too much about this as she was the biggest romance in my life. But to this day, I still don't completely understand it all. I suppose I should just let it be. Man's just a chill guy. Story 7. She just didn't come home one night. Everything was pretty fine up until then. She went to a party at a friend's and said she was coming home that night. Heard nothing. Walked all the way to the transit center looking for her in the middle of the night. Nothing. Eventually, she called the next morning and said she'd be home the next day. Kinda knew something was up, but I never really pressed it. She finally came home and she just seemed like a completely different person. Really cold, not affectionate, didn't want to be around me. Eventually, I got tired of it and asked her point blank what her deal was, and she admitted she cheated on me. Instead of being mature about it, she told me it was because I was going nowhere in life. Because I worked a job with no desire to work somewhere better and I wasn't going to college. Keep in mind, this is during the economic downturn of 2008 to 2009, so finding a job is risky. Not likely to pay much, and I was spending all my time working my back off to support us, so I couldn't go to college. Because she didn't want to get a job. The whole thing pretty much turned me off of relationships for a good 5 years after. I had flings and such, but wasn't really interested in anything serious. Story 8. Religion. When I was a younger man, a girl and I were head over heels for each other. One night religion was brought up, Mormon, and we started to lightly discuss it. I knew of her family's religion and I had attended church with them a few times. I just felt it was part of her and was naive to think it ends there. Hours later, it was made kind of clear that I'd have to become Mormon or expect my relationship to cease. When I looked to her for support, she took the side of her family. Being young and never really introduced to the power of people's faith in this way, I launched into a 6-month episode of learning as much as I could about Christianity, the LDS Church, and opposing views to both. While I tried to remain objective, I simply couldn't find truth in it for me. It caused a great rift in our relationship, and it ended not long after. We tried to secretly rekindle sometime after that, but then she left for school in Provo, and she found her future husband a short time after. All that wasted time and effort, man. Story 9. His cousin mistreated me. Then he tried to hide it. Of course, he'll say it went crazy, but it was just downhill from there. The people asking, no, I did not go out on a date with him. His long-lost favorite cousin was in town. We all hung out. My boyfriend's older brother was kind of a schmuck, so when I met another family member of his that was really nice and interested in me, I was excited that I had the direct approval of one of his clan. He came over to our apartment, and the 3 of us went out bar hopping. Looking back, at the second bar we stopped by, and the cousin handed us all 3 shots. Of course, I didn't think he would slip something into my drink. I mean, I was in a safe space with my boyfriend, right? I remember dancing with my boyfriend, and after that, no memory. I don't black out, like ever, so I'm pretty sure he slipped something in mine. Later on, I pieced it together, but the next morning, I was really sore, down there. That was the first thing I said to my boyfriend waking up. Like, that's weird. I had no freaking clue what happened. BF later told me he walked in on his cousin tucking me in with the door closed while he was in the kitchen making them a late-night meal. He said he checked, that nothing really happened. The messed up part was I woke up really, really early and took my dog out. His cousin was asleep on the couch. I didn't know, but a part of me knew when I just wanted him gone. I was hiding in the kitchen doing the dishes and he just came in and stared. I felt like an insect who wanted to squash. Paul never wanted to believe that his cousin would do that, so he just brushed it aside and ignored my obvious pain and tried to pretend it didn't happen. I did too, but that was obviously something you don't get over. Story 10. He threw me into a wall and hurt me. I was 18, freshly graduated from high school, and wasn't sure what to do with my life. He seemed so adult. He was studying law at university, and being with him felt like I was at least going to be guided into a good direction in life. But I also wanted to be 18, hang out with friends, and travel the world. He proposed to me to get me to settle down and do what he wanted me to do. Over time, he went from smart with a razor-sharp wit to condescending, cruel, and at the end, physically cruel. In a way, I do blame myself. I know that I was clingy and my family life was crappy, which at times I would vent to him about. Family was a huge priority for him, so I don't think it reflected well on me to talk so badly about my own. In the end, I was way too young and stupid, and he was incredibly manipulative. My current partner doesn't know the extent of the cruelty, as I'm too ashamed to admit it. I try to protect myself as a strong, carefree woman, and admitting I was a victim of human garbage would be very shameful for me. I've been working on it with intermittent therapy. Story 11. He began an affair for 6 months. When I found out, he begged me not to leave him, and I decided I would give him another chance and work at a relationship. He left me for the girl he had an affair with. I was heartbroken for a good year, then I started moving on. Their relationship lasted for about a year and a half. After they split up, the girl actually emailed me, apologizing for how it all happened and explaining she was at a bad point in her life when she met him. I basically replied no hard feelings and that she had done me a favor, as by that point I was past giving a crap. Funny thing is, whenever I see him in the street, he doesn't look in my direction. I would quite happily say hello, but he has made it clear to everyone how much he dislikes me, even though he was the one that cheated. Story 12. After 2 years, I moved in with her. She always has had problems with her self-image despite how beautiful she was, and when she'd get upset, I'd be there for her. But when I moved in and almost on a weekly basis, sometimes more than 3 times a week, she'd get these serious breakdowns and tell me to leave her because she thought she wasn't worth it. Sometimes she'd just come home from work bawling and just curl up in bed and scream into her pillow. Everything I tried don't seem to help her, and she couldn't work up the courage to go to the hospital again after she spent high school there. She was everything I could have wanted, but the problems she had took their toll on me. It's been 6 months since I left, and not a day goes by that I don't wonder if leaving was the right decision. If I'll find someone who can connect with me like she did. It just sounds like she needed help. A lot of help. Story 13. She said I could do better than a career in welding. So I saved up enough money during senior year to go to community college and start a degree in electrical engineering. 3 weeks in, and I hate it. I don't want to be there. I'm working a job I hate and going to school in a subject I'm not interested in, both full-time. But hey, I'm tracking down an apartment to move out of the trailer park. My girlfriend's business is starting to take off, and I'm gonna marry her in a year or so. Overall, not so bad. Then I get a text message. I'm so sorry, this just doesn't feel right. I want to take a break for a while. Wait, can we talk about this? I just want to know what's going on. No response. 3 days later, I saw on Facebook, your girlfriend is in a relationship with your best friend. Okay, now I'm just confused. So I called up my apparent ex. Hey, what the heck? Look, it just wasn't working. I'm happier now. Isn't that what you want? Yeah, but why couldn't you talk to me about it first? I'm sorry. And she hung up, so I called my friend. Dude, what the heck? I know it looks bad, but yeah, it does look bad. My fiancé just dumped me from a best friend. Well, she loves me, and we've been talking and going out for 6 months. If she picked me, then I think that's your problem. Burn in hell, man. The next day, I went to the college and dropped all my classes. Got some money back too, since it was less than 6 weeks. Driving back to my parents' place. I already called to tell them what happened, and they told me that if I wasn't going to school, then I could find another place to stay. I got $800 in the bank, $1,500 checked from the school, and $36 in my pocket. I could probably live on that long enough to get a second job to pay for an apartment. Then I see it. The big sign that says Armed Forces Recruiting Center. I remember what my grandfather told me. The Army will give you food, clothes, and a place to sleep, and they're always hiring. So I pulled in and talked to them. A month later, I sold my car and most of my stuff, walked into the airport with a backpack and a change of clothes, and started one of the best parts of my life. Those two are married and doing well. I'm glad she's happy and taken care of. She sat down with me while I was on leave to work some things out. My former friend is still a coward and won't look me in the eye, talk over the phone, or even respond to emails. Screw him. I turned out better for it, and I guess that's all that matters. Story 14. Being young and long distance, he was my first love and I thought we'd last forever. But I also wondered if I could put up with him forever. We were very different kinds of people. It became apparent to me that our drive and motivation and goals did not align in a way I was happy with. I wanted to find someone else who would have big goals they wanted to grow and work toward. So I broke up with him. It was hard, but I've done a lot of things now that I probably wouldn't have before. And I enjoy it. Story 15. Throwaway, obviously. I had contracted herpes a few years before I met my fiancé. I was deeply ashamed of this since I got it from a friend I knew from high school and that I just didn't sleep around like some guys. When I met my fiancé, I knew she was the one, but again, I hated myself for what I had and was deeply afraid that she could never love me if I told her the truth. I was engaged for 3 years before she found out on her own. She left me that day and I never saw her again. It's been almost a year and a day doesn't go by where I don't think of her or regret how awful and selfish I was for not telling the truth. Since then, I've obviously realized that anyone else I meet in the future will know the truth immediately, but I don't want anyone else. I still want her. Makes me tear up realizing I won't have the family or future I thought I was going to have with her. I hate the fact that I was a coward and that my shame made me into a liar. The fact that I broke her trust is something I ask God to forgive me over and over for. But that's life. In case you're wondering, she did tell me she got tested and she came up negative. I was always very careful. Still awful, but I'm just thankful she didn't contract it. This was very hard for me to admit because I still feel very ashamed for what I've done. I've only told a few people in real life, not even my parents know. I just had to get this off my chest because it pains me knowing I won't be with the one person I truly loved and wanted to spend the rest of my life with. Story 16. She stopped talking to me for 10 days. 10 days, and the only communication I got was, "I'm fine, just leave me alone for a while. I'm not home. I spend the night with coworkers." And after that, I showed up in my work's parking lot. 1 year this Friday, and I had gotten her a foxtail because she'd been wanting one. She told me, "You were just a phase." She left me crying in the middle of a parking lot at 9 at night. Found out from her friends she was cheating and just using me for dates. We even planned on moving up to Washington together. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 17. We met during boarding school, cooped up in the same dormitory for 9 months, made falling and maintaining the love fairly easy. However, when school ended and she moved back to Germany to pursue higher education, while I returned home to Denmark for an excellent job opportunity, we could no longer be each other's pillar of support to the extent we had used to be. We maintained a long-distance relationship for a couple of years, only seeing each other during holidays and occasional weekends. Our plan was to maintain a relationship mostly through Skyping and talking on the phone, while she finished her degree and then find a place to live together in Denmark. We even allowed each other the freedom of having intimacy with other people instead of forced abstinence, which worked out fine for both of us. She met some people to fill the role through school, and I have a friend I've occasionally been having intimacy with since my teenage years, outside of relationships. We dated for a while, didn't really work out, but that's another story. To begin with, we'd share the intimate details of our endeavors with each other, and while I thought it was quite hot knowing she'd slept with others and having her tell me about it, the experience struck her with a sense of jealousy. Eventually, it got so bad she'd lose sleep thinking about it, so naturally, she wanted me to stop, at least until she could visit and get introduced to my friend. I thought it was understandable, and considering she'd had a somewhat difficult childhood, and as a result had some self-esteem issues, which made it very difficult for her to trust me not to fall in love with others, supposedly. Perhaps she was afraid she wasn't all that, and that I would move on. Either way, I thought it best to break up. She's a very fun person to be around, with her whims and whams and her peculiar tendency to float whatever thought that hits her head. She's whimsical and adventurous and wants to meet a lot of new people and travel the world. Well, I'm about ready to hang up a curtain and settle down. Y'all just wanted different things in life, and that's okay. Story 18. I think it was long distance, but also a little bit of love. We were best friends for most of our teens. We dated off and on for years and then decided to go back to being friends. He was everything to me, and I considered him to be one of the very few people who knew me better than I knew myself, and vice versa. I moved on physically and emotionally, and then we just fell apart. I reached out to him when I was making my wedding guest roster and discovered he had moved as well and was actually expecting a child. They were at the hospital for delivery. I was so hurt and shocked that he hadn't told me, especially because he had 9 months to do so. They didn't come to the wedding either, despite verbal confirmation. We don't talk at all anymore. And maybe that's for the best. Story 19. Lack of intimacy was probably the biggest reason. She was saving herself for marriage. We were engaged, and I figured I could stick it out. We lived together for several years, but it was like having a roommate that you shared a bed with. I finally came to the realization that I needed to end it when I started looking at other women and imagining what it would be like with them. I tried talking to her about her problems for months before I broke it off, but she never cared. I broke it off one morning and packed the bag and let her know I'd come back for my things. That night, she fooled around with some guy she worked with in my bed. I'm pretty sure she was cheating on me with him beforehand, but she never told me and I didn't ask because I didn't want to know. I haven't really talked to her since. Friends say she turned into an alcoholic for a while, even though she hated it if I ever drank. Turns out the guy she fooled with was a mooch and lived with her for a while for free after losing his job. 7 years down the drain. Now she's married to a guy who used to be my best, only friend in junior high. She also joined the Navy, so good for her, I guess. Story 20. We met when I was 20. We were soulmates. Then I grew out of love with him. I knew it when I would look at other guys and wish he was like that. We had fun together and it seemed to be a perfect relationship, but he couldn't take any criticism at all. And it was bothering me. He also didn't help my mom when she let him move in with us when he lost his job. She paid for everything and didn't even offer to mow the lawn for her. Little things like that started adding up and I wasn't in love with him anymore. It was for the better. Even though I felt tremendous guilt and still feel it 6 years later, I'm in a relationship now with a guy who is one of those guys who I wished my ex was like. He's now remarried and is doing great. I'd give him a kidney if he needed one, but I just couldn't imagine growing old with him. And that's why it's very important to learn basic chores, whether you're a man or a woman. Story 21. Throwaway account because there are some details which are quite unique and I'd prefer to stay anonymous. Was married to a family where mom had bipolar issues. Father escaped to Norway and left mom with kids. As you can imagine, this left some scars in kids. Anyways, mom wasn't living far away from our flat we moved to after getting married. Everyday calls, family drama, and the whole 9 yards of it. It was enough for me and we decided to move away. After a couple of months, she attacked the youngest kid who was 19 years old. Kid went all havoc and he ended up ending mom. Wife started to blame me that if we had not moved away, she would be alive. Then sessions of yelling and accusations. Couldn't handle the scrap, so I applied for divorce. I was 28 at the time. She stalked me for a few months and even threatened that if I won't come back, then she'll go to the police and tell her that I mistreated her. That would be my word against a crying, sobbing woman. Went to police first to file this, and police wouldn't do anything about it. Said that unless crime happens, they can't do much. Told them that their security camera logged my arrival, so if crap hits the fan, then I will take this matter to EU court. The receptionist cop gave me the form, and he clearly wasn't happy about it. I filled in the necessary details in the next 6 to 7 weeks. Man, I was scared like a bunny and couldn't sleep properly. Worst time of my life, and yes, I gotta admit, during that time I saw womenfolk in general in not so positive light, especially when I was trying to find other guys like me in the same situation. Now 36 and happily married to a Ukrainian girl for the past 2 years, logging off and going to watch True Detective with her. Story 22. Flirting. Now I know for some this is a complete faux pas, but I was not the one doing the flirting. I was being hit on really hard by some intoxicated chick who clearly wanted to go at it. My response to her advances was something along these lines. Sounds great, but I'm taken. Then later, during the night, you're cute, but I'm taken. Turns out being nice while turning down a girl was really bad. This led to a crap ton of arguments. Our relationship snowballed downwards in weeks. 5 years down the drain because I'm stubborn and refused to admit it was wrong. I felt like she would have wanted me to punch her and call her incident. I felt so out of character. Still can't help but think she just picked up that incident as something to end the relationship. Yeah, definitely sounded like a reason. Story 23. Girlfriend of 7 years. She went to some rave with friends a few months before her wedding. I didn't go with her because I was sick. She collapsed and was rushed to the ER where she passed away. I later found out she was taking quite a bit, according to her friends. To this day, I still wonder what she did and constantly question if she was unhappy or just a spur-of-the-moment impulse. Deep down knew that had I just dragged myself to go with her, I would have been able to prevent this. My social and love life has drastically been downhill since. 2 fake relationships, and now single for almost 4 years with little motivation to get into another one. Now I'm happy and content with being alone in the meantime. I'm not sure how long I can keep this up with growing stigma and family pressure. Still regret that I didn't open my eyes to take one last look at her when she went out the door and just yelled, "Have fun," with my face buried in the pillow. Because I was too tired and lazy from being sick, thinking I will see her again when I wake up the next day. Still remember the leftover chicken she made the night before, which I left sitting in the freezer for almost 2 years as I couldn't get myself to throw it away. Story 24. 10-year relationship. I stayed in on a Friday night so I could get up early and volunteer for the kids she worked with. She went out, got intoxicated, and fooled around with her coworker. She told me the next morning. They broke up, but were still living together. Broke, grad school, etc. She seemed very contrite and extremely unhappy with what she did, so at first I thought we might work it out after some time had passed, that I might be able to be with a person who had been my best friend and I was dearly in love with for the better part of a decade. I figured it might be a long, possibly unsuccessful healing process, but this was the relationship I thought would last forever. So I didn't want to just give up immediately. Then I found out she had started sleeping with a guy she cheated on me with a few weeks later. We were still living together. Well, she had been telling me how sorry she was and how much she wanted me to stay in her life. Moved out, told her never to freaking talk to me again. That was a few months ago. It still hurts every freaking day. It gets better. Trust me. Story 25. After 10 years, I was sick of not moving forward. I never lived together either. Part of our relationship was spent taking care of elderly family, and that was another reason. We lived 30 minutes apart, and we both stopped putting in the effort to even see each other. I left him when he moved an hour away and turned down a good job that would have made it possible for us to go on. I was exhausted and all cried out. He called me selfish, and I left. Still feel bad about it sometimes, but I wouldn't trade my husband and our fur babies for anything. Story 26. I begged her. I asked her so many times to be there that night. She wouldn't come. She was mad about a previous argument and was moping. I'd been struggling for a while at that point. Didn't extinguish my love for her one bit. That angel. Everyone else was there. All my friends and family. Party was loud. Party was crazy. I went later and later. People went to bed. People went home. Eventually, by the end of the night, it was just me and, yes, my best friend's fiancé. Messed up. So very intoxicated. Damn Cantonese really know how to drink. The Irish heritage didn't help me much that night. Boy's fiancé has the bright idea to go for a walk. In my state of mind, I think to myself, just a walk, yeah? Why not go with her? Idiot. Freaking idiot. We walk, we talk, we laugh, we argue, we laugh some more, then we kiss. Kiss, touch, feel. It had been a while since I felt something like that. Didn't extinguish my love for her one bit. More kisses, more touch, then on a hill in the middle of a field. The following week, best friend's fiancé decides she doesn't love him anymore, leaves him. Around that time, I met my girlfriend for dinner. Can't hardly look her in the eyes. That angel. Betrayal, lies. Every time we discuss something that isn't what happened the week before, we hang out a few more times before I realize she doesn't deserve this. I can't do this. She deserves a better man. Someone who would love her like I do, but be true. I tell her thank you. I tell her sorry. I tell her everything but the crushing truth. I was supposed to be her knight in shining armor. Her previous relationship was a cruel, cheating mess before myself. Well, after myself, too. I betrayed her and screwed her over worse than that guy ever did. I kissed her goodbye, more than I should have been allowed, and left. I miss her. I ruined everything. Doesn't extinguish my love for her one bit. Story 27. This is late and will be buried, but I'm thinking it might feel cathartic to get out, so here goes. Not a romantic relationship, but a friendship. It's always been hard for me to open up to others, and as such, it's been rare to make friends. When I met her, everything just clicked. We talked like we had known each other for years when it had only been days. As the years did pass, she became my sister. I felt so freaking lucky that for once, I found what I'd heard others speak of. She truly felt like my soulmate. We lived right down the road from each other and were always together. I felt like we were a package deal to others. We had vastly different views on some really important issues, but none of those drove us apart. Until one day it did. I opened up to her and shared something going on in my life. I needed my friend. She went through the motions of support. She said the right things, but knowing her, I knew she didn't mean them. She distanced herself after the storm passed. She claimed she was just busy, that life was getting in the way. It had never stopped us before, though. Around this time, I also moved away. We said nothing would change. We'd visit, talk, Skype, we'd make it work. Before long, our all-day, everyday chats went to maybe once a week, then once a month. Now, I might get a message once or twice every few months about a show she's enjoying and thinks I might. Nothing ever important. My mother passed away unexpectedly this month. I was, and still am, shattered. I still expected something from her. Anything at all. I got a message telling me about her problems instead. Not any acknowledgement to my loss or questions of how I was doing. That's when I realized it was over. I deleted her number a while ago but never unfriended her on Facebook. I still held out that she was in there somewhere, even though I knew it wasn't true. People change. She was who I needed in that part of my life. I'd like to think I was who she needed. Thank you for who you were to me. I wouldn't have made it through so many things without you. You know, people come and go, but we won't grow if we didn't have time with them. You know? Story 28. Complete ownership of each other. We started dating at 15, her, and 16, me. We didn't have the most mature relationship. We decided who each other could talk to, where each other could go, what each other could wear, etc. It was alright though because we were madly in love and would have done anything for each other. I remember feeling a sense of pride at losing close friends because it was such a tough hurdle, but I did it for her, so I was justified. We got older, started changing, moved to different cities, drifted out of the honeymoon phase, started this toxic relationship where we both slept with other people but denied it to no end, meanwhile constantly accusing the other of cheating. We argued nonstop and hated each other, but we spent another 2 to 3 years together after that because we loved the idea of each other so much we couldn't let go. I'd never gone more than a week without speaking to her for 7 years, 2008 to 2015. Now I just recently passed the 1-year date since I last spoke to her, and it felt a little surreal, especially since our last conversation was a huge fight. There's a piece of me that tries to imagine that we could still be together later down the road, even though I know that's not possible. She's no longer the girl I fell in love with, and I'm no longer the guy she fell in love with. I respect that. It's just hard letting go of the certainty that I'll never love anyone the way that I loved her. Story 29. An ex of mine and I started dating while we were in high school. Fast forward to when we turned 21 years old. Have a pet, have nice enough jobs to maintain our own place. She was in school, etc., etc. Things were going well, you could say. Anyway, she turns 21 and decides she's been wasting her whole life and decides to abandon me, the dog, and our place after being together for 5 years so she can go have fun and be herself. I don't really put up much of a fight because I never foresaw her to become that type and decided to roll with it. Fast forward 2 more years. Just 2 kids with 2 different guys. Just single, broke, on welfare, and dropped out of school. Talk about dodging a bullet. Story 30. We were together for 2.5 years and I was sure I would marry her, but she couldn't make eye contact with me. She always looked away. It freaked her out. Every night she dreamed about me, and every night it was me cheating on her or leaving her for some schmuck reason which didn't fit my character at all. She asked me to remove an old friend from Facebook because it made her uncomfortable. I did it because I loved her so much it didn't seem like a big deal, but when my family found out she was having me delete people from stupid social media, they told me to dig deeper to see what was up. Big surprise, turns out she couldn't trust me. Never did. It wasn't my fault. She just had serious trust issues. It made the whole relationship, fulfilling and loving as it was, feel empty. I decided I couldn't wait 5 years for her to learn to give me that trust I deserve. That was 2 months ago and I still miss the crap out of her. I'm hoping I made the right decision. Tell me I did good, Internet. I need the confirmation. Well, buddy, you did something. Story 31. I was engaged to a girl. Proposed on the beach on the 4th of July, surrounded by fireworks. Didn't have enough money to buy a true engagement ring at the time because I was working a part-time job while in community college, before potentially transferring to university, so I proposed with a ring pop. A month later, after I got out of work, I received a text from her telling me that she didn't think being engaged was going to work whenever I would eventually head off to the university. I wanted to discuss it in person, but she was adamant about it, which led to us arguing through text about various things in the past, about my friendship with a girl and her ex who she still had feelings for. Eventually, it came down to this last bit. I'll pay you back the $400 I owe you. I paid for her first semester at another community college, and I never want to speak to you again. All of this before I had a jiu-jitsu tournament the next day. I was in no mood to talk, so I sent my profile picture and everything back to normal. She considers the fact that I didn't talk to her the next day me ending the engagement. Story 32. We both changed a lot in college. We dated on and off from high school until in our 20s. Every time we'd hook back up, we were a little different from before. She was casually involved with guys while I was more relationship-oriented. She ended up being the last person I dated before I met my wife. We dated a bit and came to the impasse where she was comfortable with us having intimacy, but not with us being in a relationship. That wasn't what I wanted, so I moved on. The next person I dated is now my wife. We wanted the exact same things from each other and had very similar goals and mindsets. I've been very happily married for 10 years now. Oddly enough, my ex-girlfriend married a good friend of mine. They have a beautiful little girl and seem happy enough. Funny how it all works out. Story 33. It was odd. We dated for 3.5 years in college and everything was great. We were that couple that was saving money together and looking into the future. Wedding, house, kids. Everyone was asking when the big day was coming. Friends referred to us as the perfect couple and our likes or dislikes were the same. The amount of trust and freedom was amazing. Our talks were open and honest, especially about intimacy. I had begun to plan proposing, to the point I had $2K saved for a ring. I was going to wait until later in the year, towards Christmas. It was June. She was always sentimental about those proposals. She asked to go to Panera Bread for dinner and told me she'd been wanting one of their summer salads. When we get there, everything is fine, and she tells me about work, etc. Then she says, "Hey, listen, I've been thinking about us, and you're too good for me. I think we need to break this off because things are always good and we mesh so well, it worries me that you'll propose or something and I'll live some perfect soccer mom life. Okay? Well, I gotta go. Talk to you later." She then got up and left. I was speechless, and she continued to talk or text me, which confused me until she told me I was now like a gay best friend that she could talk to. That messed me up for a few years and resulted in a nasty drinking problem that took me years to kick. Wow. I thought once you get into a relationship, you're out of the friend zone. Guess not. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.